Without further ado, can I get the session 1 to start? Can I get Karen and Robin from Kommerce and HelloGold to join? Please give them a round of applause. So I'll do a very quick introduction before we start. They will give a much better introduction than I can. So Karen is the CEO and co-founder of Kommerce. She was a former litigation lawyer and with a lot of experience in startups. And Kommerce deals with trade finance primarily in Africa to begin with. Robin is the CEO and co-founder of HelloGold. He was a former CFO of the World Gold Council. And HelloGold has tokenized gold to democratize financial services to underserved markets. To begin with, so some of the audience may not know about your project. Can you take a maximum of 5 minutes each to just give an introduction to what you guys do, and what does Kommerce do and what does HelloGold do? Karen, start.
Okay, thanks everybody for coming. Kommerce was set up about a year ago, but it actually has deeper roots than that. It's because my CEO Harvey went to Africa 7 years ago, fell in love with Rwanda and set up a trucking business. Now he set up a trucking business because he thought it would be the biggest way you could make an impact in Africa. There's unemployment, everything you see in the news reports is pretty much how it is. It's not all bad, but it's fairly close. And he thought that every shipment that he moves, it will touch 10 people's lives. And if he had well-paid drivers, he was honest, he had good business ethics, he could really make a difference in employment and set an example. And then he realized that that wasn't the real problem. About 18 months ago, he went to Rubavu, which is a dusty town on the border of Congo and Rwanda. It sits across from Goma, which is, you can literally see where the road ends. It's the transition between Second World and Third. And he was bringing in a shipment of palm oil. Now, usually when you make shipments, most people will have to place a container deposit. They empty out, they return, and they get container. And the merchant at that point didn't need a container deposit because they were pulling out the palm oil, 1,319 jerry cans, as fast as they could. And he had his container back in 4 hours, and he said, "Brother, there is demand. Why do you not bring more?" And the trader was like, "I would like to, but I have no money." And Haveen is like, "Why do you have no money? You can pay for this." He's like, "I have put my house down to bank to pay for shipment." And literally people put their house and their lands up for that money to trade. And if anything happens to that shipment, because there's no trade finance available to them, they literally lose their houses and their livelihoods. And we think, coming from a civilized or first world countries where credit is available, all of us have credit cards, all of us know what it's like to be a bit short, but because we have credit available to tide over, we don't feel the difficulties that happens. And these people have no safety net. They're sophisticated, but barefoot hedge fund managers in essence. And we thought, we can make a difference using blockchain. The reason why people can't get credit is it's essentially an economics problem, a lemon market where you cannot distinguish who is a good borrower or bad borrower. And after a while, you start pricing for loan shark levels because you assume everybody will pay back. And when you price at loan shark levels, people also stop borrowing. So we think that when markets fall apart like that, there is a way to start it going by putting in credit scores and reputation scores. And we've actually seen that happen with other platforms in our lifetimes. Like in China, Alibaba created reputation scores so that people could find out who was a good exporter and who was worth spending their money with. And we've seen the quality of Chinese goods increase over time just by having information. And we think that with Kommerce, we can do the same in Africa as well as other countries with these issues.
Okay, so HelloGold is also a financial inclusion play. We want to create financial products that can serve what we define as the underserved. People have bank accounts, but frankly, the banks don't really want to serve because they're not inherently profitable to the banks, as well as the unbanked. And we're focused on the emerging markets. We've been live since April last year in Malaysia with our launch product, which is a micro gold product that enables people to save using gold, and there are inherent advantages of gold versus money in a bank account that earns no interest, because gold historically has returned around the rate of inflation, and that's better than zero in the bank, where literally you throw money away every year. So we do that, and we also want to enable our same customers, these same customers that are saving with gold, to have the same advantages as the rich, which is to enable them to borrow against their investment portfolio, their gold in this case. So we will lend to them at rates that are much, much cheaper in the market. By way of example, in Malaysia, we're going to come in at around 8% per annum, whereas most banks, not money lenders or loan sharks, most banks in Malaysia charge about 15%. So you can imagine what a loan shark would charge. And we believe that this, coupled with a lot of these exciting projects that you see coming up in this space, and the guys that are going to talk about their projects later on, can collectively bring a lot of good, hopefully, to the people that need help and products today, not in 5 years' time, not in 10 years' time, but today. And we are focused very much on the man in the street and making sure that the tech that we create and that we use is effectively invisible to them, because they don't need to know what powers the engine. They just want to know that they can get the products that they need, and it's safe, it's secure, and it delivers the attributes that they're looking for. And for us, I think, and for this group of folks here, unlike a lot of projects out there, we use the blockchain to serve the people, and I would say probably 99.9999% of our customers will not know nor care what a Bitcoin is.
Having a good credit score is sometimes as simple as paying a bank clerk $50 and having them write, yes, he is good credit risk, he will pay back all the money. And that's not actually what people need or want. What lenders need or want, what people who provide trade finance on goods need or want, is to know that they are really good credit scores based on their actual history and their actual risk, not what other people say so. So what blockchain does is we create that history for them at two layers. One is a public history, and the second is a more nuanced history where you can have detailed credit scores. And hopefully, once they use the credit scores initially with us to create those credit scores, third-party financiers can come into the market and lend to them at better rates or at higher amounts or for different goods other than soft commodities that we're doing.
So blockchain, I think, is critical for any fintech in this space, because if you think about the ability for bad actors to come in and to hack into a system, you see that happening time and again. For us in HelloGold, we wanted to create a let's call it a core banking system that was more resilient to the impact of a hack, because resources are scarce, and if large tech companies are susceptible to the loss of data, then the question for a financial services player, how do you prevent the impact of a hack? Because you try to do as much as you can to prevent the hack, but even so, that may not be good enough. And then the question is, how do you protect the assets of your customers? Assets of customers that can't afford to lose those assets. So for us, by putting our platform on the blockchain in a private network to house our customer data, gives us a few key benefits. One is the immutability of the blockchain, which means that we can always roll back in the event of something bad happening to our database. And secondly, it also gives us the ability to scale up very, very fast in all the countries that we plan to go into, whilst maintaining, very importantly, a low cost to serve. Because if our cost becomes extremely high, then we will go down the same path of incumbents, where we'll have to price our products in a way that starts to exclude vast segments of the very people that we want to serve. So creating a low cost to serve, making sure our customer data is well protected and therefore their assets, as well as the ability to save. On the tokenization side, tokenization of the assets does a couple of things. One is it improves transparency of the assets that we keep on behalf of our customers. But more importantly, it gives our customers choice over time, so that if they choose to buy gold from us, or they choose to borrow from someone else using gold as a form of collateral, they can literally take that gold, from our wallet and take it to someone else's wallet. And that gives people choice. If you think about a lot of people, either in developed markets or who are rich, the one key benefit that they have is the freedom to choose who they want to do business with. For a lot of the underserved and the unbacked, they actually don't have that choice. And I feel that for too long, and this has come back to financial inclusion, and if you look at Malaysia, just as a country, we're probably one of the, whilst we're still developing, we're probably one of the more developing countries. And yet, we're still in a situation where too many Malaysians are excluded from the financial system, and therefore they don't have choice. And so for us, using blockchain becomes a key part of creating the kind of services and products we believe that everyone should enjoy.
So, question for Karen this time. Your co-founder Harvey was also the founder of Pan-African Logistics, and that's been a running business for 5 years now.
5 years.
Yeah. So do you, and you obviously you're partnering with them. So how do you see that partnership work, and do you see PAL using blockchain on their own main business as well?
That's two different questions altogether. So Pan-African Logistics currently runs 50 trucks across 6 African countries, 80 people. They do air freight, general cargo, and it's end-to-end clearing. Other logistics companies have caught up, but when it started, it was the first one that was doing end-to-end clearing because there was a real need into a market, just getting goods in from the seaports inland. We work with Pan-African Logistics because they're a friendly party. We have also got plans to roll out IoT devices on it, so you can have more granular information about how long a journey really takes and what are the risks associated with the journey, because we think with more information we could necessarily drive down insurance rates for freight in those regions. Separately, we work with Pan-African Logistics because they're a friendly party, and a big part of our business is actually having the security over the goods until the merchant pays in full. The merchant pays a deposit, we finance and co-pay for the rest, and then bring the goods in, and then they pay us fees and charges as well as our platform fees before we release the goods. So Pan-African Logistics is that friendly party that will ensure that we get paid before the merchant takes delivery of the goods. It's basic game theory mechanisms, very familiar to all of us in cryptocurrency, where you actually need hostage or escrow mechanisms to ensure that all parties comply. It's a trustless system. But in our case, the moat is that we actually need a logistics company to provide that trust.
So do you see PAL using blockchain on their own, without partnering with you?
I think that given what blockchain engineers go for these days, until the blockchain tools proliferate and they have the libraries and the standard development environments that we take for granted in the mature languages, most businesses will find it very hard to work with blockchain on the public networks.
Okay. For Robin then, next question. So people like to say that Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies are the future, that gold is part of the past. Why would anyone want to create a business that focuses on gold?
So it's entirely possible that Bitcoin can be the future, but the future is, 5, 10, 15, 20 years away. The people that we're trying to serve need products and services now. They can't wait 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So yes, it's quite possible that that may well be the case. I personally don't believe that, because if you look at the history of financial products and gold specifically, gold's been around for thousands of years. Up until today, everyone from the man in the street all the way up to central governments and sovereign wealth funds own gold. Until you get to that tipping point where sovereign wealth funds, central banks hold gold as part of a reserve asset management model, and you see family offices using using Bitcoin as part of their wealth preservation tool. I don't see that happening. And I can give you a sense of my theory as to when Bitcoin can potentially be the new gold. When Bitcoin starts to grow by 2% per year and gets really, really boring, then it can become the new gold.
But that's also when we'll see a lot of people may not be here.
Yeah, but if you want to be the new gold, I mean, the gold actually, and everyone talks about the attributes between gold and Bitcoin, and at a very structural level, I agree with that in terms of no counterparty risk, finite supply, all that kind of stuff. But you have two fundamental issues. One is that since Bitcoin is sold in the bucket where people buy it for wealth creation because it's going up by 10% per day, or at least it did last year. It doesn't do 2% per annum in line with inflation, which is what gold does, and therefore it's a store of wealth, a store of value. The other thing is that for it to get mass adoption, people around the world, and literally 98% of the world that needs financial products, needs to be able to understand what a Bitcoin is. Gold is intuitively understood by folks. I'll give you an example of HelloGold. We've been around for about just over 18 months now, and 7 out of our 10 customers have never bought gold before. The education required to get them comfortable with gold is actually very, very short and non-existent, whereas with Bitcoin, I mean, you'll need for them to truly understand what it can do for you. That is a financial journey that would be as difficult as selling them a mutual fund. You know, what do you want to buy? Small cap, large cap, do you want to buy Malaysia, ASEAN, global, do you want to buy industry verticals, and then you choose the fund manager. I mean, that's a navigation which I still can't understand completely, and I'm relatively financially literate.
For Karen, so one of my friends from Zimbabwe, and the stereotypical question is that people don't use their own currency in countries like that, and even US dollars are hard to get. So do you see that as a stumbling block for adoption of your business or for cryptocurrencies to grow there?
I think when there is a will, there is a way. And actually, Bitcoin is traded in Zimbabwe at, I think, a 25 to 30% premium. You can find that on localbitcoins.com. And there are any number of merchants on local Bitcoin in Zimbabwe. That comes back to the fundamental question of what people use as a unit account, store of value, as well as a unit medium of exchange. And in Zimbabwe, for a while, when people were paying, say, in US dollars or otherwise, they would actually give each other mobile minutes as exchange return, because that actually meant money. There was a value and a utility that people associated with a mobile minute. So people would pay in US dollars, and instead of getting 10 cents back because there was no coinage, they would give you X number of mobile minutes back. So people will always find a way to trade. Humans have used seashells. And for us, I think our aim is to get listed on exchanges so that merchants can access our KTF token. But it's no different now from what they currently have to do in order to get US dollars to trade. You have to go to a bank, you have to ask them, tell them that you want to buy, and then you could wait for 3 days or 7 days while the bank gets enough money together to sell to you. And then you send it over, and then the exchange rate fluctuates. So relatively speaking, if our token is available and we have a way to make it exchangeable in local currency, we would be a preferred way for merchants in those countries to trade.
Okay, Robin, I know you have these thoughts on how ICOs is a way to provide entrepreneurs from underdeveloped markets to raise funds. Do you mind sharing a bit about that?
Yeah, this is part of the financial inclusion play, I guess, for emerging markets. I believe that as we embrace technology, there's a risk that there will be less and less jobs available to people, just generally, right? Which means that they have to figure out ways in which, in the absence of universal basic income models, that they can find somewhere making a living. And whether you create micro-security tokens to have your one-man Grab fleet, or enough token that enables you to branch out and into your own Warung or your Mamak store, I believe that is a way to enable you to crowdfund and, ironically, put in the right kind of governance structures through through the contract to ensure good behavior. And when you expand that to projects like ours, where you have a great idea in, say, Myanmar or Laos, and you don't have access to capital, how do you go about doing this? You can do this by adopting the token model and creating tokens around those projects. So yes, I am a passionate believer in the evolution of this token phenomenon into effectively security token offerings.
And the reverse works too, right? So if you're an investor and you're not working in a VC or an angel investor, you can go into some projects that you may not be able to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the lost benefits of what's happened in the token space over the last 2 years is that suddenly everyone can be an LP in the next big thing and place bets, whereas before, you either had to be in Silicon Valley or Guangzhou or be an LP in a massive VC fund to enable you to get access to that. So the vast majority of people were excluded, and one of the benefits of the token space is that suddenly people can, with $10, theoretically $20, invest their bits into a next big thing, whether it's within the community or at a global level. And I think that's incredibly exciting.
So what would be the biggest misconception that you imagine people here or in the community worldwide would have about either your project or the field that you're in, that you feel like you should clarify?
Yeah, well, I can take that. I think within the community, there is an expectation that all projects rely on the community to drive the success. So I think at least for HelloGold, our success, our business model is not predicated on the community embracing it. Of course, that would be incredibly helpful, but actually it's predicated on us being to get mass adoption with the 98% of the world that we're trying to target.
I think the biggest misconception that people in and around the blockchain industry have is what I like to call the magic blockchain fairy dust phenomenon, where sprinkling blockchain fairy dust will make a project somehow better. It doesn't excuse the teams that are executing projects for having to find customers, for having to drive adoption, for having QA, for having marketing, for having product market fit, and for just having people at the helm that are awake and focused on delivering a project. And it's not the first time I've seen it. I've seen it before as a much younger person at the start of the internet boom, where it's like internet fairy dust, right? But I think that the discipline of having and delivering companies is something that people miss out on. Yes, there is a new thing. Yes, there is the first mover advantage. Yes, there are network effects, but you still have to do your job.
So it's kind of an interesting question I'd like you to ask, to answer. What would you say is the biggest roadblock to financial inclusion, but not the problem that your project is solving?
So for blockchain as a whole, who used dial-up computers for BBSs? Remember how awful it was, and if your parents wanted to use it, you'd have to spend all day no. So it's got to the point where our parents can use the internet, and for me, blockchain is still at the beginning stage where you're almost at dial-up but not quite, or we're at the beginning of maybe not even Yahoo search, maybe Itomi. And the tools and the UI and the UX and the ecosystem have to catch up so that everybody can use it and that it's available to everyone. So that is actually the biggest barrier to financial inclusion. And remember, the next billion people on the internet won't necessarily be literate. They'll be using voice, they'll be using gestures. We've seen that with our Impact Advisor in Cambodia, where women WhatsApp each other using voice messages. And so bringing UI and UX that will serve these people is actually really important. Voice, biometrics.
I agree with that. I think the other thing is particularly when you go into financial markets and create financial products, is regulation. I think regulation needs to catch up to enable startups rather than incumbents to experiment and create opportunities for the underserved. Otherwise, you have to have, I mean, you either adopt the, do now and ask for forgiveness later, which, can work, but I think most people, most good actors would prefer to ask for permission now, but that can take a long time. So I think regulation is probably the most challenging part for a lot of people in this space.
I think I have time for one more question before we open up to the floor. So you guys please ask all your questions for Robin and Karen. My final question is, so Karen, you talked about Harvey's introduction to the whole setting up Kommerce. But what was your introduction to either Kommerce or the blockchain space in general? And which one came first? Was it financial inclusion or blockchain?
So I read the Bitcoin white paper in 2013 and I didn't do anything about it. So did my blockchain engineers, and we had a good laugh because we thought, oh well, I guess we're here doing something to fix poverty, or at least part of the poverty traps that exist. For me, I started to delve deeply into it when Harvey said, look, there's an opportunity to fix something, and that was about just over a year ago, about 18 months ago, and we battered the idea around until we said, okay, this is definitely how we're going to fix it with blockchain. Information asymmetry is something that blockchain fixes very easily because by creating tamper-evident information, you can rely on it, provided that you have enough measures around what information you put on the blockchain so that it's reliable. So, yes, so for me, the chance to fix a key economic problem, we call it the lemon market problem in economics, was actually why we started it. We said, look, this is actually what keeps economies down, it's what keeps countries down, it keeps people poor. If we can remediate markets, people are smart, they'll know what to do when they have cheaper food, they'll know what they can spend on food, education, housing, when they have more money in their pockets. And I thought, it's easy, let's do this.
So the blockchain thing came about when I was looking around for a bunch of tech guys to build HelloGold. And actually, the first bunch were Andras and Dave out in Singapore when they were building out, I can't remember what it was, Tembusu. So that's when I was first introduced to it from a tech perspective. I think I saw it in 2013 when I was still on my last gig. I was running the fund, and the head of investment said, we should look at this thing called Bitcoin and think about an ETF for that. I said, yeah, no, it's not going to take off, don't worry about it. Probably the dumbest thing we ever did. But yeah, so from a tech perspective, it was just looking for a solution for our platform. And I think it's, having delved into it, I think it's opened up a realm of possibilities. We just need to, as Karen said, just wait for all these sort of ancillary stuff to catch up. Otherwise, it's going to be inherently unusable for the people we're trying to serve.
Okay, so last one, I'll sneak one in before we ask the audience. So what can the community do, whether the audience here or people watching the video later, what can they do to support your projects?
I think this is ETHKL, right? I think it's more to support the community rather than our projects.
Well, no, but primarily your projects and how they can achieve the goal of financial inclusion. Is there anything that the community can do in any way? It's fine to say nothing.
No, just do good projects. Make blockchain more acceptable in the mainstream.
Talk to us about our project, read our white paper, see if there's any way we can improve. Because even within the team, we have a firm belief that if you can't kick the idea around the end, it still lives after that, right? It's got no business surviving into execution. So we really think that talking to people makes our project better, and there's a possibility that we can all participate in creating impact and creating a better world for people.
Thank you, Karen and Robin. All right, we have applause first. Let's just get a round of applause. Okay, so before you ask your question, can I get you to introduce yourself and then ask your specific question?
Yeah. Hi, I'd like to direct this question to Mr. Robin Lee.
Introduction please.
My name is Victor. I'm one of the early investor in HelloGold token. It's been almost a year now, and so I have two questions. One is how has raising funds using an ICO helped the business, and how far you are along in terms of the roadmap? Because I think from what we have gathered, you're quite a little bit far behind. And the second question is, most ICOs use the tokens to promote the business. We don't see that happening so much with HelloGold, and you don't understand the rationale, right? Because actually, when you promote your token, you're promoting your business. So maybe you should give some airdrops to those who buy gold using the app, right? For example, right? So that way you create some demand for the token and make all the token holders here very happy. That's my question.
Okay, if I can answer that. Let me do that very quickly. So in terms of where we are as a business, I think from a market expansion standpoint, we're actually doing pretty well. We're in the process of launching in Thailand. We are in discussions with a mobile operator there, and we hope to be able to get to a place where we can launch with them before the end of the year. We are still discussing with potential partners in Dubai, and that's taken a lot longer than we had expected. We're actually about to start discussions in Indonesia. So from a business standpoint, in terms of just pure partnerships, I think we're in a good place. From an adoption standpoint, we're probably about a year behind in terms of where we want to be. We're currently about 25,000 customers, and we were hoping to get to 30,000 within the first 12 months. But a number of things conspired to delay that, partly because we only completed an ICO in September, so we're actually coming out from a run rate perspective to our first 12 months now. So we are a bit behind on that, absolutely. In terms of using the token to drive the marketing, that would be true if our business model was predicated on serving the crypto community and selling them financial products and services in the community. But HelloGold has always been a financial inclusion play, and I would say out of the 25,000 customers that we have, probably less than 100 actually participate or even understand the crypto space. And so, doing that to drive adoption may work for certain projects that are focused on that segment of the marketplace, but certainly for us, it will not drive adoption for our business model at all.
Is there another question? Any waves or? Alright, okay, if not, then please give a round of applause for Robin and Karen.